Jana, where are we? We're at the 2024 Fort Chipewyan Winter Carnival. A jigging competition.
This is a true crime podcast. It's about the murder of a young Indigenous woman named Amber Tuccaro. She grew up with her family here in Fort Chipewyan. And when she was 20 years old, she went south to Edmonton with her baby and a friend, and she disappeared. But not without a trace. Amber left us a message, a final recording of her voice.
You better not be taking me anywhere I don't want to go. I want to go into the city.
And the voice of the man who may have killed her.
50th Street. 50th Street. Are you sure? Absolutely.
That voice haunts a lot of people, including me. That's why I wanted to make this podcast. I thought that if enough people heard that man's voice, someone would recognize it and her murder would be solved. Like, how is it that police had this tape, but still haven't found her killer? And how will Amber and her family ever get justice now? Amber's story spans many seasons, generations, and it's not over yet. So where to begin? Amber belonged to the Amiskwaciy Cree Nation. In the Cree tradition, stories are told in the winter. And so we start Amber's story on a frigid winter night, way up north across a snow-covered lake, in Fort Chipewyan, the place that was Amber's home. I know a party is a weird place to start a story about a murder, but every time I thought about where to start, I came back to this evening. I wanted to bring you here because to understand Amber's story, you need to understand what this night means and where the Tuccaros come from. The Winter Carnival is a big deal in Fort Chip. It's a celebration of Indigenous cultures and traditions that the Government of Canada once tried its hardest to erase. Against this history, the festival is a celebration of survival, of resilience, of never giving up. And I wanted you to know from the start that the Tuccaros will never give up either. That they will keep telling Amber's story, keep holding the police to account, and keep fighting for justice. It was a beautiful night. Dancers circled the floor in big fur mitts and hats, beaded and embroidered mucklucks and moccasins, and everyone was laughing and clapping and cheering. The smell of bannock wafted from the kitchen. Amber's family was there, and it's the place Amber should have been too, if someone hadn't taken her away. I'm Jana Pruden. From the Globe and Mail, this is In Her Defense, 50th Street. Episode 1, in Cree, ê-wanihiht. In English, missing.
Can today be you ask me questions instead of me just talking?
Yeah.
I'm just tired. I'm just like...
Yeah.
I dreamt about Amber last night too. A good dream though.
What did you dream?
It was about, we were all together and Amber was cooking a big feast. So it was a good dream. Jacob was there. Well, actually, all my family was there. Probably talking about her yesterday. Made me dream about her.
Do you dream about her a lot?
Not really. It's usually that freaking nightmare that I have about her, right? And to have a good dream about her was awesome. Yeah.
So one thing, this is a really easy question to start with, and something I neglected to do yesterday for audio, is actually just to have you introduce yourself and say your name. Say who you are.
Vivienne Tuccaro, mother of Amber Tuccaro.
Now, I've been calling you Tootsie because that's what everyone calls you.
Yeah.
But do you prefer to be Vivienne?
No.
Okay.
Tootsie.
Okay.
Please, yeah.
Okay. And maybe you could also tell us just where we are in the world right now.
I'm in Fort Chip, Alberta. Fort Chipewyan, Alberta.
We were in Tootsie's living room, sitting together on her big soft couch. Her place is cheery with lots of plants and little lime green accents, and it was so warm and cozy compared to the freezing cold day outside. Amber's son Jacob is a teenager, and he was hanging out in his bedroom with their dog, Bob. You'll hear that Tootsie sounds really tired. She's sick. We'll talk more about that later. It had been almost 14 years since Amber disappeared. She was 20 years old then. Jacob was a baby. Honestly, Amber was struggling a bit, like a lot of young people do.
You know, what can you say about her? She's just a typical young woman there just trying to live her life.
That's one of Amber's brothers, Paul Tuccaro.
You can't even say live her life because she didn't get a chance to live her life. She was just young. She was, she wanted to hang out with her friends. She was just getting to that stage where she's just learning about life, I guess. And kind of I didn't want anybody to be mean to her, I guess, because I think that's why I, stayed with us. I was kind of strict with her, tried to make her stay home. And then if she wanted to visit, always made sure she came home. If she didn't come home, I would go pick her up. Because I know, a lot of young guys and, like to take advantage of girls. So didn't want that to happen to my sister.
Amber had been living in Fort McMurray, the closest big community to Fort Chip. She'd been staying with her mom and also at a women's shelter called Unity House. Tootsie says Amber was staying there because she thought they'd help her get her own place. At the shelter, Amber met a woman named Evangeline McLean. The two became fast friends. Evangeline posted a message on Amber's Facebook on Sunday, August 15th in 2010. "Call me girl soon," she wrote. Amber responded, "Can't wait to see you." She added a smiley, winky face. A couple days later, Amber told her mom she was going to Edmonton with Evangeline.
She was sitting at my desk and she just yelled out all of a sudden. She's like, "Amber, your plane ticket's paid for." I was like, "Holy shit, you live in Unity House and you're able to pay for her ticket?" She's like, "Well, I sell purses as well," she said. So more reason for me not to want Amber to go and not to take Jacob what Amber's going to do. What Amber's going to do. Anyways, she was stubborn like that. She said it was only for a couple nights.
It sounds like you didn't like this Evangeline, or you didn't trust her.
Not that I didn't like her, because I didn't know her, right? But I just, you know when something's not right, even, right? You gut instinct, I guess.
Tootsie told me Evangeline said she had a back problem, and she wanted Amber to come with her to the doctor. At Tootsie's apartment, Evangeline and Amber bleached blonde streaks into Amber's long, dark hair. It was Tuesday, August 17th, 2010.
So they left. And of course I went down when the cab came, and after the fact, I remember when Amber was hugging me there before she left. It was a different hug, but I didn't think of it at that time. It was after. I don't know if it was the last hug, maybe. Or maybe I should just kept on hugging her. And I don't know. Like, there's a lot of little things that I think about now that I don't know if they were signs or something, but when you think about it after, it's just like, damn, anyways, I should have, or I shouldn't have, Shit, this still hurts like Amber just went missing.
You want to take another little break?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I was working at a newspaper in Regina in those days, and I've been covering a lot of stories about missing and murdered Indigenous women. Amber Redman, Melanie Geddes, 5-year-old Tamara Keepness. Similar stories were happening around the prairies, around the country. and the crisis was starting to get noticed. The most recent statistics say the homicide rate of Indigenous women is 6 times higher than that of non-Indigenous women. There are so many missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls that there's a shorthand for it, MMIW, or MMIWG. That wasn't used back in 2010, but there was clearly something going on in the country, and there was something going on specifically in Edmonton.
There just seemed to be a disproportionate number of cases in that city, and some of them seemed to have, high-level commonalities.
This is my colleague, Matt McClure. Matt was part of a Globe and Mail investigation into missing and murdered Indigenous women that started in 2014. What did you learn about why there were so many cases happening around Edmonton?
Yeah, well, it's a great mystery because most of these cases were never solved, even though, the RCMP formed a group called Project CARE to look specifically into these cases. But most of these cases remain unsolved to this day. And so it's hard to be definitive about any of this, about why it was happening. I remember interviewing an academic out there who said Edmonton is just a really violent city. Like to this day, so many of these cases, we don't know whether it really was serial predation. I think a lot of people assume it was, but without having somebody convicted for them, it's very hard to say that. But there just seemed to be so many cases that had some of these loose commonalities that we could see with the information we had, that it really did seem that there was something going on here. But the information we have too, I think, indicates that if it was serial predation, there were probably multiple offenders. It wasn't just a single individual who was responsible for all of this.
I want to underline that because it's really important. There were so many women being murdered in Edmonton then that it seemed like it wasn't just one serial killer, but multiple men preying on women in the city. And many of the women were Indigenous. I don't know if Amber knew what was going on in Edmonton or if it worried her, but her family understood the risks that young women face, and they tried really hard to keep her safe. This is Paul's wife, Judy Ann Cardinal. Amber lived with them when she was a teenager.
But after a while, she wanted to start going out with her friends, and I don't know, growing up in Chippewa, kind of we wanted what's best for her. We wanted her to finish school and, maybe go back to school and do something, but it's like any young person. You want to go out and experience things, and Paul was pretty strict. Go find her, make sure she came home. She was even hiding in the bush once when he went look for her. He was like, Amber, you gotta come home. And we used to tell her that, when you go places like Fort Chip, but you go out of town, you can't go all over the place, and because there's bad people out there. I think of that a lot. I used to tell her, there's people that you could get killed, and look what happened. I think about that all the time. I used to tell her that. I think that's why we hold our children so close now. Because they're Indigenous, especially our daughter. We only have one daughter. I think trauma from that just went on to our children. But Amber I don't know, she went to school and then she didn't want to, and then she got sent to her dad, and then that's when she was all over her dad in high level, McMurray, high level, McMurray. Then she wanted her own place. She went to Unity House, and that's where she met Evangeline.
Do you know how old she would have been, more or less, when she kind of moved away?
I would say 15, 16.
And was it she's moving away, or she's just here and there and not coming back as much?
She came back. She always came back home. It was like where she went, she never felt wanted, she said. Sad to say, but she just felt lost, I guess. Because I know, I love that girl just like she was my own. But just like anybody else, everybody wants what's best for their children.
When did you first realize, or do you remember when you first realized something was wrong?
When she wasn't answering her phone. And then Evangeline telling me that she was sleeping at 9 o'clock, 9:30 at the night. I knew something was up, like when she stopped answering her phone. Because it's not like Amber, not answer her phone.
Tootsie and Amber didn't always get along. You know how mothers and daughters are. But they were still close, and they texted and talked a lot.
Even when she took Jacob for a walk to the park or she went to the store, I'd text her all the time. She's like, you text me too much or you call too much. I was like, but that's what moms do. Yeah, we were close. Because throughout the day when she went missing, like we had been on the phone, texting and talking. And all of a sudden there was nothing. But I kept calling her phone. I text her, nothing. And when Evangeline told me that they were sleeping, Jacob and Amber, I was like, holy shit, something's wrong here, something's not right. And then Evangeline called me. She's like, is this Jacob's grandma? I was like, holy shit, something's not right. So I said, yeah, and she's like, I have Jacob with me and Amber took off last night, she said. I was like, what do you mean? She said, yeah, she took off in the middle of the night. She went to pick up pizza and never came back. I was like, when? You said she was sleeping, like, when did she get up? She's like, well, she said she needed to go buy Pampers, and her story kept changing right there. I was like, well, what's the truth here?
Evangeline told Tootsie to come get Jacob right away. But while the family was figuring that out, Evangeline checked out of the motel, gave Amber's suitcase to the front desk, dropped Jacob off with the authorities, and left the city.
Can you tell me about the time when she went missing, when you knew that she was missing?
Well, Tootsie told us. She was worried because she said never heard from Amber. She's been trying to call her. I know it like this. When things happen like that, it's like you don't remember because you're in panic mode.
We didn't know anything until my mom, well, she was living in McMurray, we were living over here, we were all living our lives then. Then my mom was like, got a call and it said, yeah, your sister left and whatever, and then she never, no answer, and whatever, we didn't, what are you going to think, because you don't know. Then she got on the phone and said, yeah, she's with this white woman, and, Jacob, Amber never come back, and she's going to phone child welfare, and we need to try to go get Jacob.
Amber had been out of touch with her family for short periods before, but this time was different. Tootsie called the police.
So I called and I said I wanted to report my daughter missing. And they asked when was the last time I seen her. And I said 2 days ago, I think, because I seen her in McMurray, right? I said I want to report her missing. And he said to me, well, she's probably out partying. She should be back. She'll come back, he said. I was like, no, he said, we're not going to put her on the missing persons list. I said, no, you have to put her on the missing persons. And we talked for a while, like back and forth. Then he said, okay, I will. So then I called back again. I want to know the status now. She wasn't even on the missing persons. He didn't put her on there. I was like, son of a bitch, anyways. I think it took like 3-4 days before they actually put her in that CPEC or something, whatever it's called.
That's CPIC, the Canadian Police Information Centre, a national police database.
The police don't call you. You have to call. Well, or that. And I would call throughout the day, in the evening, late at night. And the police said to me, don't call back. We'll call you. I was like, you won't call me. I just kept calling and calling. And on September 1st, I called in and wanted to know the status of Amber's case. And, oh, she's been taken off the missing persons, he said. And I was like, why? Oh, because she was seen at a gas bar. I said, did you guys see her? He's like, no. But you guys always told me she has to be seen and identified like 110%. But yet, at the same time, they took her off without the police identifying her. It took me one freaking month to get her back on the missing persons after that. I don't know. They don't give a shit, those guys. Oh, and this one officer said to me, I said, you guys don't give a shit. I said, what if it was your daughter or your sister or whatever? Don't try to play that card with me. He said, I was like, oh yeah, you play poker, let's play. They don't care how they talk to you, you know, they'll just look at you right in your eyes and just say what they gotta say.
Tootsie was getting the runaround. But as you'll come to learn, Tootsie's a fighter. So
I kept calling. Fill up their voicemail. Because that's my baby, right? And I wasn't going to give up. Didn't matter what or who I had to deal with.
Those early weeks must have been really terrible.
My goodness, you have no idea.
Well, we always knew we always got a shitty deal being First Nation people. But then it's funny that, a few years before, whatever, I used to think, nobody's going to go missing from CHIP, we're so small, so isolated. Then what do you know? My sister goes missing. And, we had no faith in RCMP. If we didn't do what we did as a family and with the resources and the people that helped us, we probably wouldn't be anywhere where we are today. I know that for a fact.
Your mom really knew right away, it sounds like, that something was wrong, that it wasn't. Did you feel the same way, that you knew right away that something was the matter?
Yeah. Why would Amber be going somewhere to Edmonton with a woman she just met?
the day Tootsie reported Amber missing, an RCMP officer phoned Evangeline. According to the officer's notes from the time, Evangeline said Amber was going out to get something to eat and never came back. The officer thought Evangeline was mostly upset that Amber had taken her sweater and some money and left the baby. A few days later, Evangeline posted another message on Amber's Facebook page. It said, "Hey, please call me. I'm worried sick." Amber's family didn't trust the police investigation right from the start, and they began doing everything they could to find Amber themselves, even when the police didn't seem to want them to.
We even asked to search. They wouldn't let us in that area that, in Leduc. It was like excuse after excuse. Oh, the farmers won't let you on their land. And that's why you ask people to say, could I search your land? We're looking for someone.
But it was so stressful because people were seeing her, but it wasn't her. Especially in the Edmonton area, and not knowing if the police were really following through with checking to see if it was really her. It was hard. It was so... I thought I was going to go crazy then, and plus I had Jacob too, right? So I couldn't just get up and go at any time. It was really hard.
So people contacting you would be just sometimes, just strangers and people in the public?
Yeah, strangers, and also people from back home that were living in Edmonton. So my hopes would go up and back down again with every message or with every call.
Sometimes Amber seemed so close, but she was always just out of reach. When Tootsie heard Amber was in a room at a shady motel in Fort McMurray, she went there and started banging on the door. She told the manager,
"Well, if you don't open that door and check if Amber's in there, I'm going to call the police." No, he said. Someone call the police. I call the police, and so they come there and they raided the hotel, but she wasn't there. It was a different Amber.
It seems like the right Amber had stayed there. Her friend Teresa Antoine remembers that.
I remember I talked to her just before she went to Edmonton, and I remember she was staying at the Plains Hotel. I remember she told me she was there, and she said that she was, I don't know, doing whatever, and like I told her we were just talking on the phone, we were just joking and laughing, and then she said that she's like, okay, because I have to go. She's like, I love you, and I love you, and then she's like, okay, I'll call you in a couple days. I said, okay. I was like, I'll come to your mom's and I'll come visit you. I told her, and she said, okay. And then that was the last time I talked to her.
Teresa also went to look for Amber at the Twin Pines.
My Lord, it was like ghetto. It was just ghetto. Like gets to the like that ghetto.
Did you know anything about this woman Evangeline that she was supposedly hanging out with?
Nope.
Were you worried about Amber at that time? Like,
honestly, I didn't know what she was like. Me and her would talk about like our kids and stuff, about Jacob, and we would just talk about life. We wouldn't talk about like anything else. She wouldn't tell me like what she was doing and stuff, because like at the time I wasn't really into that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think she kind of withheld that kind of things that she was doing.
Mm.
I don't think she wanted me to know, but if she was doing stuff like that, I don't remember her like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think we don't really know. You know, that's kind of a story that's like been out there in the media of that she was.
I know her as a good mom, always home. She's always taking care of her son.
Mm-hmm.
From as long as like it was always her. She was always with her boy. It was her whole world.
A year after Amber disappeared, her family held a march, press conference, and vigil in Edmonton to bring more attention to her case. Her disappearance had received virtually no coverage before that. But a police officer now told the media the circumstances of Amber's disappearance were suspicious. He said, to have someone literally disappear off the face of the earth, we know someone knows.
Like, I didn't know what else to do except just keep at the police and just keep calling and asking the public to, if they seen Amber or knew something, like to message me or call me, and because I didn't know any, like, had I had a lot of money, maybe I could have hired a investigator, private investigator or whatever.
When did the police tell you that they had that recording?
I believe in January 2012.
A year and a half after Amber disappeared, the police now knew what her family had long feared. Amber was dead. And investigators had uncovered a stunning piece of evidence. A recording of what seemed to be the final, terrifying moments of her life, and the voice of the man who may be her killer.
Yo, we're not going in the city, are we? We're going. No, we're not. Yeah. Then what are these roads going to? 50th Street.
Coming this season on In Her Defense, 50th Street.
And it was at that point determined that we were likely looking at a serial offender or offenders.
Who is the Leduc County killer?
I think to our family, like, she was our special baby.
She was a mother, and she was funny, and she had this laugh that you laugh at, and then she'll laugh with you.
We've got hardcore evidence here. And what do we do with it? How do we do this?
Well, it's not that easy, though.
Because a lot of these murders remain unsolved.
Many. Yeah, most more are unsolved than not.
Like, they know who done it, and so do I.
It's so hard to understand, on top of everything else that our family feels and has to go through, you know?
On behalf of the RCMP, I am truly sorry.
In Her Defense, 50th Street is made by Kasia Mihailovich and me, Jana Pruden. Our sound design and mix is by David Crosby. Field recording by Amber Bracken. Our managing editor is Matt Frainer. Thanks also to Mark Ipe, James Keller, and Angela Pacenza. All our episode titles were translated into Plains Cree by Dorothy Thunder.
Tante Dorothy Thunder Nyanitsika Sonne Hiawe Square with the Little Pine First Nation, Saskatchewan. Well, hi, my name is Dorothy Thunder. I greet all of you. I am from Little Pine First Nations in Saskatchewan. So for me, Nehiyowewin is a very nurturing for me because it's my first language and it's very rich and complex, right? So I'm really fortunate to have been taught my first language, and Cree being my first language and English being my borrowed language, right? So for me, it's really a very beautiful feeling to have it and to hear it and to carry it and to pass it on to the next generation.
At the end of every episode, you'll hear Dorothy explaining the Cree word and her translation. Our episode today was called Missing.
Like this, ê-wanihiht.
ê-wanihiht.
Yeah, she has been lost. Nobody has heard from her. She's missing. ê-wanihiht. She was, in the past tense.
Right. ê-wanihiht.
ê-wanihiht.
Our cover art is a painting of Amber by Lauren Crazybull. Our theme song is No Surrender by Ms.PAN. Art direction by Ming Wong. Additional Cree language consultation and translation by Barbara Scott. Thank you to Elder Joanne Saddleback, Carrie Benjo, Danielle Parody, and Amber Bracken for cultural guidance and feedback on our drafts. We'd love to hear what you think too. You can reach me by email at jpruden@globeandmail.com. That's jpruden@globeandmail.com, or by leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts. If you rate and review us, it helps other people find the show. And you can share it other ways too, on Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok, or just send it right to your friends. In Her Defense, 50th Street is recorded at Gabby Road Studio on Treaty 6 territory in Edmonton, also known as amiskwaciy-wâskahikan or Beaver Hills House. Support is available for residential school survivors and their family through the National Crisis Line at 1-800-721-0066. Kinanaskam Tnawau. Thank you for listening.